somebody had already said it is a nice morning, and this is a great way to start a Saturday morning. With us kind of grounding ourselves in our topic today of the rest, renewal, and resistance. And so, first, I'm going to read the blurb in case you're here and you're like, I came here because it's the 13th of the month event and I just come to these. It doesn't even matter what the topic is. I'm going to go ahead and let you know what we're grounding the conversation in. So it's titled Reclaiming Our Seasons, Rest, Renewal, and Resistance. And in many land connected cultures, the seasons are the original calendar guiding work, rest, and renewal. White supremacy and capitalism have disrupted these natural rhythms, replacing them with back to school sales and pumpkin spice marketing. This is an invitation to pause with the turning of the season, to reflect on what we've lost, and explore how seasonal shifts can help us reassess, realign, and heal. Together, we'll discuss ways to prioritize self, reclaim our time and energy, and resist the distractions that pull us away from what matters most. And so, as Dana was talking earlier, we're going to do a little bit of probably Erica, and I lead with a question or start a question, and we'll want y'all to jump in since we're a small group. But it is this interesting this cool time where summer is kind of leaving. You still might get some really warm days, and fall is slowly creeping in. It's like, at least here, I'm in Atlanta. But I know in Maryland a lot of times it's like, hey, which one is it? Do I need a sweatshirt on? Do I you might dress for all three seasons to get you through the day. And so with that, we want to kind of start with, how do you, in our society where we have elections, we have boycottings of stores, we have um, cities being taken over, how do you kind of quiet all of that and ground yourself into, this is what the season is and this is what I need to do for myself? So let's start with you, Erica.
I think that so there are the changes of the seasons, and then there's the things that are perpetual, right? And then that helps the things that you do in a season align with those principled values that you have, right? So in terms of like thinking about the election and like any kind of like boycotts or whatever or things like that, those pop up, but we still have to align those to the principles and our connection to nature, right? And so I say that I would challenge us to call it, instead of like, you know, resisting or whatever, but like an alignment of our prioritization of our own values. And then when we come into these seasons that have different changes, then we know that, I don't know, pumpkin spice, and the, was it spring Halloween or summer Halloween, whatever the combination of those things that are in marketing. They help us to remember, like, this is someone who's trying to exploit me and my desire for X. Does that align with my values? Does that connect to what I'm doing? And if not, then that's not something I need to participate in. And where do I find community around recentering those things? Did that answer the question a little bit? Or
That does. And for me, I think it's while we're bombarded with so much information, so much news, so much that we are supposed to pay attention to because it's too much and no one can keep up with it, it almost feels like I now have a different type of invitation to be
Mhm.
like, rest, pull back
Mhm.
some. It's impossible to keep up with it all. And so for me to be able to turn into myself and to do some rest time, to do some reflection time, and then be able to decide when does it feel best to jump back in and at what capacity, what does that look like? And I really love the seasons changing to be able to do that for me. And so autumn is for me always like, hey, we're in kind of like the last quarter, what's going on with those goals that you created, all those, like, that time period of reflection. And so I love to do that to ground me in the, instead of what everyone else is doing or what capitalism tells me what I should be doing. Let's go back to what I set for myself at the beginning of the year as a good grounding to kind of finish, if we're going by like talking about year in this calendar year, to finish it the way that Anthony J wanted and had tried to forecast for it to go. Um, how about others?
Well, can I just pop in there? Because I love
Go
what you
ahead.
just said about this accountability to self aspect of the fall. Like,
Mhm.
and when we think about the fall being a time of harvesting as well, at least in this hemisphere and in this situation that we have, are you like you get to harvest those things that you've worked for, that you've laid the foundation for that have had some fruit to it. And then I think it's a good opportunity then to think about what happens next, right? What happens next is things start to fall away and die, and but not actually die, they kind of land on the soil for it to be weathered over in the winter and be ready again for spring. So how are we then being accountable to ourselves and those things that we weren't able to achieve? How do we then begin the planning process, given the lessons that we've learned from that accountability for the next time of heart, not time of growth and bloom?
And I see Ebony in the room. Hello and good morning. I'll give you a moment to kind of see where we are in the conversation and then, pass it over to you. How are you this morning, though?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing excellent, doing excellent. And so, again, for others that are in the room, how do you quiet kind of like all the noise and all the busyness around and begin to kind of gather yourself with the change of the seasons jumping into autumn?
I'll say something. Hello,
Hmm.
everyone. So until we had this conversation, I have not thought about outside stuff and
Mm.
resistance. I have thought about rest. So I've been currently having some family issues that have been extreme, and I know that in order to cope with that, I have to turn my art up. So I'm doing puppetry now. Um, and I said that to say that I have not even thought about it being fall. I haven't thought about winter. I haven't thought about any of those things. I just know I needed to quiet down what was happening outside of my home. And in order to do that, I had to turn inward into art. But you all are just making me notice that it's fall, you know?
Time to do
I
just
had
that,
no
right?
no clue about that. I just knew the summer was awesome and it's fall now. So um those tools that I've been using to quiet things have been uh across the board. It doesn't have a weather thing attached to it.
I love that. That takes some really good listening to self, listening to body, right? To be like I'm operating on my own clock. I love it.
Right. Yeah.
And then to serendipitously find out that that clock is also working in accordance with nature too, right?
Yeah.
How
Mm.
about you, Ebony?
Yeah, I think for me, fall is a really lovely time to be able to enjoy the outdoors. When we were planning for this, Erica brought to my attention the immense amount of privilege I have, for being able to enjoy outside darkness, live and in person. So I kind of embrace walking outdoors with my dog under the moonlight. And I know that that's not accessible for everyone, but it's kind of like a way for me to reclaim like the outdoors as sunlight decreases, just like being conscious of the moon. And when it gets really cold, doing it from indoors and just like being conscious of the moon cycle. And learning more about the stars and learning like about mythology around that kind of gives me like a different hobby and perspective versus like when it's summer or spring, being outside and like activities outside are plentiful. So I kind of just embrace what is accessible and like how can I make the best of what the seasons have to offer right now? And like for me, looking at the clouds is like an all year thing. I can do it from indoors, I can do it from outdoors. And that's really important, especially as I have a job where I'm more connected to the computer, and that can be kind of draining for me. So adding the all day at the computer, kind of sedentary lifestyle, and not being able to get outdoors as the sunlight and the weather changes, trying to find ways to bring the indoors out. Something else that we talked about is like having plants, and my house is filled with plants. So I know that it can be kind of uh, a a money dump of a of a hobby, the plant thing. So I suggest folks find like plant share folks. There's a lot of like plant swaps where you could get cool new plants. You could definitely lose a lot of money in the plant game. So yeah, those are just kind of the things that I get excited about. Oh, cool. Peabody has, I didn't know about that. Another thing to fuel my hobby. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me feel good that I'm not the only one who sometimes would probably spend too much on plants, at least for my case, because I tend to not be able to let them stay alive long enough. But
How are those ferns going? How are those ferns doing?
right, Erica's no, she has given me some before that, are no longer with us today, RIP. So, this is also making me think about though a little bit of what Sheila said and Ebony and talking about particular acts of what you do, and but want to ask it, I guess, a little bit more formally. When we're oftentimes think about resistance, people think about marches, they think about signs, they think about intense debates, um, and it's more than that. You all we've already talked about some ways and some acts of resistance, but I want to more clearly ask, what are some recent acts of resistance that are preserving your energy that you're feeling really proud of?
Boundaries.
Ooh, say more.
Yeah, I mean, like I think in a society that thrives on exploitation of labor and under the guise of productivity, so much so that we feel like if we are resting, that we are feeling guilty about that thing. I think the boundaries of like knowing that there is a season to work and a season to rest, daily seasons and yearly seasons, and just setting those boundaries up so that you're not playing into the cog in the wheel kind of perspective, but actually like setting up and getting more aligned internally and spiritually with the environments that we're in. And I think that that too is resistance because that means that you're less able to be exploited. Folks who have no boundaries can be pulled in a lot of different ways. And so setting up those boundaries, but I think that there's a second part to that that needs to be highlighted too, is that there's boundaries and you can't just like shut people off, but there's also repair for those, and for those who have shifted or need to shift because of the boundaries you set up. Repairing those relationships too, also part of it. So boundaries and repairing relationships, I think is a way of, like not just canceling, but leaning in if those relationships can be repaired. I think that's an act of resistance because I think that being imbalanced is antithetical. Well, I think being in balance requires community. It requires interaction. I don't believe that one can be in balance just solely by themselves. It requires um, connection.
I'm gonna go right off that. I love the boundaries and repair, but I'm excited about and proud of leaning into community and finding the community for a particular season. Because there are some communities that it's like, hey, this is my family. And then there's some it was for that season. And so I'm a part of a group with entrepreneurs that energizes me. There's a group for queer men of color. There's like, I have these groups that I'm like, oh, these are my people, and they feed me and water me in different ways. And I think that capitalism tells us that these are things are hobbies or extras, and you can throw them to the side when you need to hustle and make more money, or when you need to be focused on this thing over here. And I
Mhm.
think prioritizing community, realizing that um because this is aligned with where I'm supposed to be and what I want to manifest for myself, then I'm going to be able to harvest something, and something that's going to come back to me that's going to be more fruitful than when I'm chasing the dollar, doing what capitalism tells me what I should do. And so it's feeling good because it feels like, oh, I feel something coming. You know, that feeling was like, I feel like something good is about to come. I feel it. And so being with community has been doing that for me lately. What about you, Ebony?
It's a similar theme. So, in what is it, January or February? At some point after the new administration, I was laid off, and I saw the writing on the wall, and decided to use my last couple of paychecks to sign up for some different like hobby activities. It was like ceramics and then improv. I signed them up so they would like start right after the other one started. And then in that time, my happy place was taken away from me, Tarjay. And I had to um resist the urge to shop there because I didn't really once I made the decision to stop shopping there, I realized how often and how many things I get from there. And so that really pushed me to one, identify different places, spaces that I could get it from, and just be conscious. Like, obviously, I couldn't divest from every single organization that is not aligned with my values, but that one felt like I can just get stuff from the grocery store, or I can figure out other ways to get, and some of the stuff I just didn't need any, like I realized that maybe I was going in there through another shopping issue. And so resisting that like community resistance, like the decision to be in community with people I do and don't know who are not shopping at Target, forced me to one, fill my time with other things. So I, in that same time of not necessarily having steady income, but then like really being committed to arts and crafts, I met new people and expanded just my own understanding of life and gaining different perspectives from people and hearing how other people were being impacted by the change in our administration. So sometimes resistance looks like, for me, one, choosing to stick with, to like see something that's valuable and like make the sacrifice to be committed to taking that action, and then being brave enough to like take a risk and invest in myself and see what it has to offer. Um, I don't think that before this season I would have thought like a ceramics class and an improv class would have been that radical, but the way it has opened me up and exposed me and like to myself and then new perspectives, I can see how not making time for the creative aspect of ourselves kind of, now I yearn for it, and it's like a part of what I do. I think exercise and going to work, everybody seems to be on board with, but the creative stuff oftentimes seems like not as important. And I'm realizing that that is for me an act of resistance of really being a whole human and feeding all the different aspects of myself.
Being a whole human. Erica, are you going to say something? You're on mute.
I was thinking about Target because I feel like it's a good example of a couple of things that have had to happen. It used to be a happy place for me too. And but then I think it just triggers a whole lot of other questions around how do I show value and appreciation for those who value and appreciate me, right? And then this lull and the seductiveness of one source, like shopping, right? So what we have been lulled into and why Target became a happy place is because no one goes to Target for what they need. They go Target for Target to tell them what they need, right? And so we've lost like this, that just kind of builds into like like let's consume, 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 which is part of what this culture is about. And so what does it mean in terms um, of resistance and renewal to start thinking about direct source purchasing, right? cutting out because Target makes something by having all these people come. And we supported Target when they had when they started representing us. But then that also became a fault, right? So those people of color who relied on Target for their products to be more accessible to the general population are now suffering as well, or could be suffering as well. And so, what is it like to cut Target out of that middleman, that middle space, and just purchase directly from the source? I think it gives us ideas around a better appreciation for what it is to create something to be consumed, right? We forgot that. It takes some startup stuff, right? It takes a lot of effort and energy for and hard work for people to produce for us to consume. And so that gets masked over when you have like a mega store that you can go in and buy all these things. But what is it like to then appreciate those folks? They get to keep all that money, extra money in their pockets, and then do something else in the community as well. And so that too, I think, is a part of resistance.
Mm.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I like was looking through the journal section in Target really got me. I am a journaler and I have more journals than maybe regular books. And so after deciding not to partake in Target shopping anymore, I started looking at, oh, like these are not Target brand. These brands are something else. I think I would go in there and just because they have such great curated stuff. I didn't really pay attention prior to this year on who the different makers of things were, unless they were spotlighted. And so now I'm more conscious. I look at the different Target stuff that I have, and I'm like, oh, well, they have a website and this, that. So, to your point, it has forced me to like be more conscious of who is this, who actually is making this stuff, and do I want to continue supporting it? Yeah or nay?
I'm gonna jump on this consciousness and this noticing to move us back over to the rest area. When autumn comes, at least for me, it has a different feeling, right? And I want to know what signals does your body kind of tell you that it is autumn, or what things around you let you know that it's autumn that is not related to the pumpkin spice commercials and things. And what does it trigger in your body? Does that trigger rest for you? Does that trigger, what does it do? So, Erica, I see a smile on your face. Go ahead.
And when you just said that, the first thing that came to mind was like deadheading, right? Like when you have to cut down the flowers that you had, right? And that's just like a definite signal. And so so what the smile came with me to like camouflage that is like it's always a time for mums, because mums bring the autumn color back that you're losing from all the summer foliage that had to go away. So mums are a happy place for me.
Mhm. And what does autumn feel like in your body?
Um, I think I wander more in my brain in autumn,
Mm,
right? Because it's for although I was born in the summer, I am not inclined to heat and humidity. So it's an opportunity and an invitation to wander, right? Like I'd rather be out there where the climate is amenable to me, like just walking and seeing where it takes me when I am able to ambulate fully. Or just sit outside and just feel that different crisp air running through your nostrils.
mm. Able to wander. I love that. How about you, Ebony? What does autumn feel like in your body?
For me, it feels colder. I really like the heat. So I am very particularly sensitive to needing a sweater. Like my collection of sweaters starts to be like the morning. Since I have a dog, going outside, I feel the weather change. And for here, I'm in Baltimore, so we get like fake winter, then summer comes back, and then so for me, it's like the need to stay at the body temperature that I want while I'm outside. It signals needing to go in the basement and get my warmer clothes. So it's like very task oriented. Like the temperature kind of influences what I need to have to like be warm and enjoy it outside for a bit. And the gardening. So I notice before the weather changes, leaves start to turn yellow, like in some of my houseplants, because there's like the decrease in sunlight. And so that kind of in the past couple of years, I would say the past 4 years, has been a pre-signal for me, like, oh, the plants noticed. So that's why I like stay pretty uh, each year I'm like a little bit more in tune with what changes with either the plants outside or the plants in the house. And like what types of it's interesting because I feel like when I notice the plants, then I notice I need to do stuff for myself. So it's like, oh, right before they need to, some of them come inside, I need to like change out their dirt and I need to like do the last fertilizer. And so then I realize for myself, like, oh, change the filters in the house, or like just like some self-care stuff, like make sure all my appointments are set up. Just yeah, it's just interesting how all of us are now kind of on this cycle together, like the plants and me and the dog.
Yeah, so I love the fall, like you, Erica. Born in the summertime, but I am not a heat person, and so I love the crispness of the fall. It's like, ooh, I love a good sweatshirt that I need to put on, wrap up in a blanket a little bit. I like to sleep colder, so I love all that. And I think the thing that emphasizes what I feel is my dog is in summertime, she wants some attention and a little bit of pets, and it's like, all right, we can go. But in the winter, it's like, so where's the blanket at? When are we gonna sit on the floor and cuddle? If I were to do that in the summertime, she'd be like, it's too hot for that, get away. But once it starts getting cooler, she's like, I want my floor time. Let's get under the blanket. Let's use each other's heat. And it's something that I appreciate about with fall, that it's like a connection with then feels like family and in my body that feels good. So I want to hear from we haven't really heard from we have Sheila, Elizabeth, welcome Adama, Michelle, Rebecca. What does autumn feel like in your body? You can come off of mute. I want to hear from one or two people kind of.
Can I add to that question? Because I'm sure Sheila has somewhere in her bag of goodies a couple of sayings that the folks used to tell us about the seasons too. Can you add a little bit of that for us, Sheila, when you get a chance?
The problem with that is that my mom would say this thing about the months, 30 days, half September, blah, 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 blah. It was so long, I never memorized it. But I know she would say it all the time. So I can't help y'all on that one.
Oh, okay, okay.
Anyone else? What does autumn feel like in your body?
I'll speak up. It feels like I want to use my body more, especially, excuse me, outdoors. So I've been going over to Lake Montebello to walk and alternately walk and run, which I would never want to do in the summer. It would just be too sunny, too hot, too whatever. It wouldn't draw me. But in the fall, I want to get out there.
Mm-hmm. Want to use your body, yeah. And also when you talked about running, I also feel like sometimes it's like a race. It's like, oh, I want to enjoy and suck it all up before winter comes. I think that I'm doing that in my head too. That it's like, yes, it was another day, it's another one to get outside before I can.
I can go.
Okay.
I would say two things happen for me inside my body when fall comes. One is that so I was born in the winter. I was born the day after Christmas, but I loathe winter with and maybe because of where I live. I've lived almost my entire life in the on the East Coast, but winter is hard for me. So fall, as soon as that shift happens from summer to fall, as soon as the air changes, there's like this anxiety for me because I know that that means fall. Winter is around the corner. But another thing that happens for me with fall, and I don't know why, I feel like I start to have a lot of memories of past falls. Like, oh, this smell in the air now reminds me of when I was in high school and in the fall,
Mm.
we would play certain sports or I remember when the kids, were starting kindergarten and now they're in high school. There's something I don't know what it is for me personally about fall that triggers a lot of like past falls. Maybe because summer feels busier as far as like being outside and doing things, and then fall you start to slow down a little. But those are the two things that are kind of happening for me inside my body.
Yeah, I
We
would agree
love
with that. I
the
feel
rewinds. Go ahead, Rebecca.
No, I feel like I have a lot of sense memory in my body about fall that I don't necessarily have with other things. Like the feel of the air on your skin on a fall evening feels very particular to me in a different way. Um, I know that I don't enjoy the decreased daylight once we get to the middle of winter, but I enjoy the process of the daylight decreasing. And sort of I guess almost interior look that it encourages, sort of this turning inward, whether it's sort of inward towards our houses or inwards towards ourselves, but this sort of calming effect of that, which I always find interesting because winters are not I'm with you, Michelle, winters are not easing for me. But falls feel different.
Thank y'all.
Hey, I'm gonna jump in.
Hmm.
Sorry I was late. I got caught up and it was like, oh my God, BRJA family, it's been like too long. Let me jump over here. Um, so oh my goodness, whirlwind for me. I am from Buffalo, New York. I moved back home. I'm here mostly like spring, summer, fall, and a portion of winter. I'm in Ghana. So my seasons in my body, right? The way that I experience seasons are really interesting. Because Buffalo is so brutal, it's with blizzards, right? I really don't want to be here during the majority of the winter. And because it stays cold so long here, like in October, mid-October, it'll go down to the 40s in some cases. And literally this year, it was 59 degrees on Memorial Day. So, right. So y'all got, okay. So, giving context for in the summer, excuse me, there's always a million things happening because everybody's trying to get it in. And right now, as we're starting to go into fall, this year, the leaves didn't change as quickly as they did last year. Like last year, the leaves were changing like in August. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whereas this year, it's September and the leaves have barely changed. So I find that interesting. For me personally, I got two things going. I'm a trained farmer, so I look at the weather every day. And for me, it's about harvest. Even though I'm setting up a small urban farm here, like I'm not actively farming here this year, but the cycles are still in my system. So it's harvest time. Like it's like, okay, time to get everything in and batten down and put away, so that when the cold comes, you can just sit and you're not worried about like what you lost to the weather because you didn't get to it. And then because I'm in the season of my life of moving into elderhood, for me, life is fractal. So I'm in moving into the fall of my life. So this season is helping me to, just kind of take stock of, you know, what have I done with my time? How have I curated my legacy? What am I preparing to pass the baton on and to? And that that level of time of what's happening in time and space is sitting with me in the season of fall, and what do I need to do to like prepare to be fruitful in this season in preparation for the winter. So that's it. Thanks.
I
Thank you
think
so
that
much.
aligns a lot with what you said earlier, Anthony, about fall being a little bit of accountability and reflection. And
Mm,
also, there have been themes in what we all have said about like storing up stuff to carry us through the winter. right? The energy, the sunlight, the outdoor time. I think that just feels all in sync.
Thanks so much. The fall of my life. Ooh. Okay. Dana, did you want to share? Give you a chance?
Oh, y'all, so much. I just got stopped in my tracks with that season of life, fall is season of life. Because, yeah, I am well into middle age and this is fall. Sorry, I had other thoughts, but that just emptied it all out except that.
Oh gosh. So I want to, and I'm gonna pass it over to you, Erica, as we talk about in some ways talking around rest, but I want to kind of hit it on the head a little bit more. When we were having this conversation, you were like, there are different types of rest. I think you said there were 3 rests. Could you walk us through what those are?
Ooh. So now I have to bring back my recollection.
It was
Um,
different fonts. You remember?
oh,
Yeah, there
Yeah,
were
the
fonts
different
and sizes and
fonts.
yeah.
Yeah, and sizes.
I don't, so that was off the cuff, but so maybe you can help me a little bit, but I'll start with I believe that rest means different things between different communities and also within different connotations, right? And so there's the rest where you are physically tired, and you may need to lay down, right? And that's that is resolved through sleeping and regeneration of the body in that way. There is a rest that comes from I don't know that sleep doesn't handle. And I say this a lot, that when a Black woman says she's tired, it doesn't mean that necessarily that she's just sleepy. And then what was the third rest, Ebony?
I thought there
Oh,
was
what's
a
that?
rest that was like for like resort rest, or that's what I pictured
Was
in
it
my mind or something.
italics?
Oh, yeah, so the vacation rest. Like I just need to get away from it all. So like a separation from the day to day and separating oneself to rejuvenate. There's the daily rest of like, hey, I need to take a nap. And then, there's the rest of like just mind, body, and spirit that also should happen daily where we're just recalibrating. You take a rest from people and circumstances as need be. I think I'm not doing it justice, and I probably should have written it down back then, but I'll allow everybody else to kind of weigh in on those thoughts around rest.
No, when you brought it up, it was helpful because we were also talking about rest looking different for folks of color than what it looks like for white people. And while I haven't always put it in categories like it's this type of rest that I need, I know so many situations where it was like, dang, I got all the naps that I thought I needed, and it's still not enough. You know what I mean? It feels like Solange is craning in the sky. I did yoga. I thought that was going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I realized that there's a different type of rest. Like you said, maybe a separation that I need that the regular in the house or just right outside of the house rituals aren't going to do. And then when we see through social media or through conversations sometimes with white people being like, oh, I'm so exhausted or I need rest or whatever. It's like, we're not talking about the same type of rest. And sometimes it is frustrating to be like, okay, the type of rest that I need to maybe get out, to get away, some people don't have access to or resources to do. And so that's what was coming up for me in the conversation. And so just wanted to lift that into this. How about you, Ebony? What do you remember from it?
Also, let me just jump on that one thing. I think that rest that requires separation from a situation is usually gifted with a brand new perspective, right? To
Mm,
help navigate, reconcile when you come back to it, right? And so you're able to like see fresh eyes because of the weariness of the day-to-day vicissitudes of life, right? That day-to-day
mm.
wearing requires separation to come back with fresh eyes. Sorry, Ebony.
No, sorry, that was valuable perspective. But part of your rest fonts, I thought of that for a while, and another rest that I don't know which font it fits in per se, but the idea that rest in community, like being able to just be. So something that I noticed with like my longtime friends, I had a friend that I've been friends with since I was 17 is in town. And the way after like she lives in California, so we don't see each other often, but we just spent a day doing nothing together, like absolutely nothing. Just she has a baby. We played with the baby, but we were mostly just walking around, sitting, sometimes talking, sometimes just staring. And we used to live together too. And it was like I don't know, it activated something in me. And the next day I woke up, I felt like I had the best sleep ever. And I think sometimes I forget that like your people, the people that just like you get to just, you're not performing for, you just get to be. Especially for me as a Black woman, I feel like I'm more on the side now at this age. I do less performing, but it's still, I notice when I'm having been around that person, um, I realized like, oh wow, like this is what it feels like to be totally just ebony, chill, not putting on any particular personality. And so that type of rest is so needed, especially for those of us who like work in spaces or just, I don't know. I can't think of a Black person who doesn't need that kind of rest, but no matter what kind of job you do, even if you sit by yourself, just like the space to be without having to consume anything in particular. Like we didn't really buy anything. It was just like just just chill. And so that rest is better than nap, than coffee, than resort. Like that feels so good. So I know that I think earlier we were talking a little bit about community, and I think this season has really taught me how much community. Like part of the reason I was late today, I had help to do. I have a cleaning ritual on Saturdays. And so I had help today. And though how much we were able to do together versus like if I was here by myself, it just I don't know. There's something really powerful about this season of connection and like doing things together, but not like doing things shopping or spending money, just being human and like being in human space with each other, and doing whatever, like helping each other do tasks, like helping each other cook. There's now that it's warmer or colder, I feel more comfortable like turning on the oven because BGEE won't be fighting itself with the AC in the oven. So, so yeah, just like the simplicity of rest, like how simple it can be, and like the vulnerability to just allow yourself to receive help, or for myself, I'll speak for myself, to allow myself to receive help, to ask for help, and then just to be brave enough to just be like, do you want to just come chill, do nothing? So yeah, there's a special set of people that you could do it with, and I hope that everybody has those people and like engages with those people in that way.
I mean, it tracks so much because I think about how much of our lives in this society require us to be out of body, out of self, in service for other people, right? And so, what being in community in rest does, it allows you to re-inhabit yourself. You know what I mean? Come home to self and be supported while you're in that with no kind of, I don't want to say out of body experience, but you don't have to leave it to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It like come home to self.
Yeah, my morning pages this
Reverend Menachem would
morning.
say re-embodiment.
Yes, the thing that came to like I try to do just like a few minutes as soon as I wake up of just like what's in my head. It kind of helps me also get from dream state to real state. And the thing that came up multiple times when I was writing today was just like it feels really good to be in my body right now. Like I feel fed, I feel like emotionally fed, spiritually fed, and it was just nice to be with people that I love. So yeah, yeah, being embodied, like I don't know, it's weird. I don't think I always know when I'm not in my body, but I know when I've returned to it. Like I know how it feels to like, oh wow, like I can feel on my parts. Like I'm like I feel like I'm in a good blanket and just like walking through the world well. And I think the pull, like the Dementor vibe, I don't always pick up on it, but I do feel like when it all comes back into me, it's like they're all the parts of me are back.
And I would add, offer perhaps that I know when I'm with my besties, that history of relationship also allows me to be seen. And so often we have to live in spaces where we have to hide or we're not seen by virtue of being of color, rendered invisible but hypervisible simultaneously. So just to be seen as and validated, I think that is a part that really, and so that length of time, someone who with that for whom you can be vulnerable enough to be like that is one of the most beautiful things of community and connection.
Adama, I saw your comment, but I want to give you time to say what was in the comments and put some more around it because yeah, I don't want to read it. I want to hear from you your thoughts on what you've been hearing in the last combos because there's been lots of nods and then there's a comment here.
No, Erica said it. I am a Resma like devotee, so to speak, you know. So his book, you know, Our Grandmother's Hands, and then following with his next book, The Quaking of America, and he's like, yo, if we're trying to avoid a civil war, we have work to do. The white people, the black people, the police in the first book. The second book is the white people, the black people. He was like, I was trying to work with the police, but, you know, in the first book, but, you know, the system was really not trying to have that happen. So, but back to that, you know, he is just explaining that doing some somatic practices to get it back into yourself, but then how actually in community, just when we're with our people, we resonate. You know what I mean? Like, and just that fuller explanation that Erica gave with, you know, because you're seen as your full self and accepted as your full self, and then you're resonating, it resets our nervous system settle back down. We settle back down into ourselves, you know, and we come fully online. And so that's what my head was just like, yup, yup, yup. So, and then the fall, right? It just you makes you want to like your dog, right? Dogs are fully embodied in their little bodies, so it's like, oh, it's the season. Get the blanket, come on. So I'm just, yeah, I was just agreeing in harmony with everybody else about like, yes.
So I have some thoughts. Two things. One, does rest have anything to do with arrest when you get arrested? I wonder if that has anything to do with that. And the other thought is, can y'all hear me? Okay. And the other thought is, um, Ebony, you were talking about that special place, and I think they use the word peace now for what you were feeling with your friend. Like you have peace, like you found some peace. And if you find people who can give you peace, you normally would marry that person, or a man will marry a woman who who gives him peace. And listening to your definition of that type of rest with your friend, it just reminded me of a time when I was with my children's father and we did absolutely nothing, and it was peace, like straight up peace. So, um, anybody has anything to say about the word arrest?
So I just quickly Googled the etymology of that particular word, and in the verb and a noun form, and it's about stopping, right? It has its legal implications, but it's literally to stop, to cause something to delay, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Now, like how it evolves and how it's used, but this stopping piece, come back to self, recognize, uh, and I'm doing this in quotes because I know that has a lot of implications in terms of like talking about the police or whatever, but if in one of its purest forms to think about it in terms of like stop, reflect, kind of like we would have said, Selah. Now think about that. Think about what you're doing, then rejoin, rejoin community. And that way, maybe that's what we can take away from the word arrest as we talk about the fall and autumn season.
I need to jump in here because I have made plans with a friend to go to the Baltimore Rhythm Festival. She's coming by shortly to pick me up. But there's been a really rich conversation. I appreciate all of what you've said and the thoughts you shared, and generated more thoughts on my part than I would have imagined coming into this topic. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
I want to talk about now in this, somebody, I think it was you, Erica, mentioned renewal a few times and want to move our conversation over there. How did our ancestors mark seasonal shifts, and what traditions might we consider reclaiming or adopting?
When I was thinking about this question, I thought of you, Ebony, because like for as long as I've known you had this Saturday cleaning ritual, right? But when I think about my grandparents and the way my mom kept house too, there were seasonal aspects to the cleaning, right? In the spring, you even wipe down the walls, the baseboards, all that, right? Because it's about like getting rid of things that have been sitting around while you've had the house closed up due to weather. Now, granted, I know that I'm coming from a very East Coast perspective and the four seasons and the view of having all four seasons pronounced. And then when we think about what that cleaning is in the winter, like we start putting things away, taking out only what we need to consume, like the shorts and stuff go in a box and they get stored away for the time in which they're needed. So we only keep what we can access. What we need to access quickly is what is now in front of us. So there's not the rifling through to understand or whatever. It's like conservation of energy, as you know, and all that. So that's what I thought about a lot in terms of cleaning and ceremony when we talked about renewal and how that adds to it.
I can't
Anthony,
tell
you
if you're
were not
about to talk
satisfied
next,
with
Ebony.
my answer.
Oh, Anthony, are you about to say something?
No, go ahead, Ebony. I couldn't tell if you were about to start or not. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was, but I didn't know if you wanted to say something, so I was waiting. But yeah, renewal, all of that. I think that for me, rest and renewal kind of go hand in hand. Like I feel like especially for the fall, there's like this, I don't know what happens. I don't know. It's just like this thing of needing to, yeah, I think because I think that part that you're talking about, like with needing to switch our clothes part, I know it's very East Coast, but I think on the West Coast too, they get like cooler weather. But maybe I don't know. I won't get into trying to identify everybody else, but at least for here, yeah, there's something about needing to pull out certain clothes and needing to make space for what is needed now versus what isn't. And then the thing that makes my like it reminds me of my ancestors or like my recent family is the idea that of repairs. So I have like a container of clothes that need just like literally like a new button or a hem needs to be fixed. And so my family, they're not from this country, and they they were farm. They grew up on a majority of them grew up on a farm. So fixing clothes rather than throwing them out was like a really big thing. And so I find myself like my sewing machine is right here next to my computer, and it's like I don't use it as much as I should, but especially now that I'm not going to Target and I'm like divesting from buying clothes as often, the need to, before I put stuff away, fix them, or as I'm putting stuff away, fix them. Like this idea that things can be reused has been coming up a lot for me, especially as I try to divest from over shopping and things like that. And uh, drying things. So I'm growing Scotch bonnets. And so some of it I turn into hot sauce that I can keep. And then some of it I dry them, and then I take seeds from some of them. And so I'm noticing that as I am trying to be mindful of where I'm shopping and just trying to like be just more conscious in how I engage with community and in general. I'm finding new ways to, whereas before, maybe because I was going, especially before the pandemic, I think life felt a lot faster. After the pandemic, I think I learned how to slow down and like do things and not be as wasteful. And I think once I started seeing other ways that I could reuse things and just take my time and do things in a way that will allow me to use it over and over again rather than me having to rebuy. And I think also the budgetary constraints of like being unemployed for a period of time forces creativity in a way of like stretching a dollar. And so yeah, I see how renewal for me is getting closer to what like my grandma's generation and her mother's generation around like what can you reuse stuff for? So like I have these little containers. Now I like gift people plants in these little containers that I get like yogurt in sometimes. And so just like I have noticed this thing of because I'm sitting still, I can kind of like look around and see like, oh, does this have another purpose? And now giving myself time and space to like give it purpose intentionally rather than just throwing it away or going and buying something else. So that's kind of what I don't know. I don't know if I'm totally on topic, but my family, they used to keep a lot of stuff and I didn't like it, but now I'm like, oh, well, this thing can still be, I could use this for something, or like a mismatched socks, using them to like fill in like pillows instead of just buying the stuffing. Like cutting them up and like stuff that I can't use anymore instead of like buying towels to like clean the mirrors, just using clothes that I would have probably thrown out. Now those are like my dusting rags, not needing to like buy a Swiffer. Like old clothes can dust things just fine. And like I used to, when I was younger, didn't like it. I used to be like, there's these stuff we can buy. And now I find myself like, no, that's cloth. Cloth is cloth, and I can use it to clean. So
I was
yeah.
just thinking about it as you said that. A couple of things, a couple of thoughts came up. One, I was thinking about the Four Seasons in this one particular. Like, this is a really future leaning part of the season, right? And I think that because even when I was talking about the deadheading, those things you let fall back to the earth, they get reabsorbed. Those nutrients get reabsorbed so that they're ready for the spring after they get wintered over. The winter, the water, the ice pushes it further down, so they're ready and ripe for those plants that come up in the spring to be ready to have. So you know what I mean. So this is this is a very future thinking time when we think about the accountability, those things that we did not accomplish during the year, Anthony, that you offered in the beginning, we can now start to make plans for how we will get those accomplished, lay the seeds, the groundwork for that knowledge that needs to then, be inhabited when it's time to be fruitful again, or when it's time to start planting again. And so I thought about that a lot. And then I thought about, at first I was like, well, this is the time where we harvest, but there is a level of productivity. I find that I just bought a darning kit, Ebony, like the little mushroom, and I just bought a darning kit because we're trying to like reuse and repurpose, and in terms of like being very mindful of how I consume. But I find that my productivity for making things with my hands increases, and as I get more sedentary in the seasons. So I knit more in fall, right? And so I think that that's just like the layered approach to how we respond to the changes of season without kind of thinking about it until we are in these platforms and we have to see the alignment through other people's eyes.
Love it.
And oh,
Go ahead,
it's
Adama.
I don't want to overshare though, so like
No, go ahead.
we're good. Okay. This is so rich. Thank you. Y'all don't know. Y'all feed me up here. Thank you. I miss Baltimore, y'all. Oh, ah, I love my family, but I miss Baltimore. Y'all my people. Um, so just moving down that same thing, the theme, thinking about replenishment, right? Um, it's interesting. So I'm just gonna walk through sort of traditional Chinese medicine, but it's where we are. So right now we're in the fall. That's going to be the lungs and the large intestine. And this is the time that you would start, I'll just say, taking care of those organs, paying attention to those organs. But it's also looking at, especially with the intestine, that's where our immunity is. 60% of our immunity is in our large intestine. So it's you're taking care of this system to prepare it to move into the winter, right? So because, resistance is down in the body, more germs are floating around. I'm just saying. So you're taking the fall to take care of the organs that house your immunity. In the winter is the kidneys and the bladder, and it's the season of rest, and it's actually the waters of the kidneys that hold our vitality, and the kidneys are the cooling organs that when all of the other organs are running hot, they draw off of the kidneys actually. So in the kidneys it's more rest, soups, it's going deep into stillness. All of those are winter things in order to be replenished to spring forth in the spring, in order for that energy to rise back out and spring out and be active, right? So um yeah, so it's like taking care of this to move into the next, which takes care of the next. It's just like everything is everything. It's amazing.
I was gonna say something else, but you took it somewhere else. That's never knew this. No, no, in a very good way. Never knew this. And thank you for sharing that nugget of I don't even want to say information. That seems like it's making it too small because it was mind blowing to me. Yeah.
I just realized I was on mute. I was just like, that was beautiful. That was wisdom. Thank you for those pearls of wisdom. I look forward to meditating on that a lot. Thank you.
It brought to me, I use acupuncture to help get through the difficulty of the seasons changing. And I think there's a lot of different community groups that do acupuncture, and that connection to which organs are activated and what hot, cold, sticky, what types of things we should be putting in our body to be able to balance what's happening outside versus inside. I think it's interesting. When I started going to acupuncture, I found it very sad or disheartening that that was the first time I was hearing about all the ways that I could count, like my body needed certain things at certain times of the year. And once I started following that, how much easier it was to kind of just embrace what was happening with the seasons and around me. I think that a lot of things changed, but understanding what was happening in my body and what my body needed from a different medical perspective was very helpful, because sometimes I find, this isn't medical advice, it's just my perspective, that medicine here in the US is really reactive and not proactive and collaborative with our body and nature. And so I've noticed that other traditions of medicine have embraced the body's knowledge and like how we can be more in sync with nature to provide better clarity for our minds and bodies. I think capitalism pushes us against nature so much, where productivity is, you have to produce at the same amount, at the same rate or more every season. There's no cycle to it, and that's very unnatural, and that's something that I had to unlearn. And I mean, through therapy and through acupuncture and through whatever, all the things, but realizing how unnatural, how it's like how our work culture in the US predominantly is, pushes us to not listen to our body. To people get awarded for going to work even when you don't feel like it, or like if somebody is experiencing an incredible trauma in their family, like if they show up to work and act like nothing's going on, that's celebrated. That's not seen as like uh I don't know. I don't even know. But for me, I feel sad for people now when I find out that they were at work presenting like nothing was going on, but in the background they were navigating some pretty horrendous like family situation. I think we have a long way to go in our society where people like work doesn't encourage that kind of denial of self.
I'm reminded of something that Dari used to talk about, like it mutates, like anti-blackness mutates, racism mutates based on this opposition. I was thinking about that when you were talking about the curative model of Western medicine, of how like we just cure things. We don't have a whole lot of involvement in preventing. Until now, people who have seen that that model doesn't work, and so they'll be reintroduced to some traditional culture's form of that, and then appropriate it and sell it to us a way that the curative model needs to, you know what I mean? So it's cyclical. And I think that disembodiment is a tool of white supremacy. It has to be, because that's how the cycle happens, right? And so that we think about yoga in a very specific way, so far removed from Iyengar and those before, right? So, and so what I appreciate so much, and what you had to offer, Adama, is that it says, "Hey, indigenous people, guess what? We weren't always like that. Remember your body." And so that's why that wisdom you dropped just felt so good, like the ancestors whispering, right? So thanks.
And there is when we the other thing that comes up, what just sparked for me is like when we think about, I used to do hot yoga, and one time one of the teachers I had was like, you all think that all these poses are the yoga. All of these poses are getting you ready for the most important pose, which is the one where you're just laying on your, it seems like you're just laying on your back, but that is actually, that's the yoga. Can you sit here still in your body after all of the things that we just did and all the passageways we just opened and released? The thing that is the yoga is this last rest here, and this is where the medicine like kind of sets into your body. And so many people, after they're not moving and shaking anymore, they just run out the room, and it's like you're missing, you like, that's, you missed the whole point. So that has helped reframe how important rest is, as far as like allowing our bodies to and nervous system to settle into everything that we've just done and accomplished. When we skip that, we don't, we're not actually progressing. We might still be moving and doing stuff, but we're not making progress.
Both Ebony and Erica, your responses are feeling like, oh, these are a great closers. But I still got one more question that I want to ask both of you. And then we're gonna wrap it up. We've talked about the way that capitalism keeps interrupting us being in tune with our body, or being in tune with rest or renewal. When imagining autumn through a lens outside of capitalism, what does that look like for you?
I think it's what I said. I think it's resting in the face of being forced to be productive. I am lucky and blessed to have gotten a job now, and I'm coming into this new job. First month out, I took days off. I like didn't feel any guilt around taking time off, especially because after the pandemic, I mostly worked remote, and this job has a couple more days in person. And so I felt my body being like, whoa, what's going on? And there was a moment where I was like, oh, I just started back. Like, if I keep taking these days off, I'm gonna look like maybe I don't appreciate this thing. And I really had to sit with myself and say, like, this is not the chapter that that is a step backwards. So it's like, for me, it does take courage to like be this person that prioritizes rest in the face of other pressures. And I have seen over this past month how prioritizing rest, like allowing myself to take a day off if I felt like, dang, I just really pushed a lot and did a lot in this week, allowing myself to take the time off allowed me to come back refreshed rather than like dragging myself through an experience just because I was worried about like what other people would think. Just allowing myself, like listening to my body and allowing myself to do what is needed so that I can just be whole and not even just to come back and be better. It's just like my body feels depleted. I need to take care of my body. If I die, capitalism will replace me immediately. Like it's not, this isn't, maybe people will be sad, but this is my one life. So I am not, I think that's like the thing that I hope people prioritize is the people that need you are usually not the folks that are in your jobs. They're usually the people that are in your homes and that you love. And yourself. And so showing up for yourself so you can kind of show up for the folks and the priorities that are appropriate is counter to what capitalism wants. And I think I mistakenly thought that it was a one and done decision. And I have to choose that every single day, like how I'm going to prioritize myself, the people that I love. And then obviously I need to have income, but it doesn't overshadow my other priorities. And I can't allow it to, because once I start, that is a much easier machine to be a part of than the one where I'm prioritizing what my body needs, what the people that I love need, and then what can I give for work? And like, how can I be a contributing member in a way that allows me to show up in the places that I care about most in the way that I want to show up?
Thank you, Ebony, for that. I think I end, Anthony, where I started, which was we may be talking about autumn today, but I think that what's paramount is having a principled life, that where you're aligning your energy, your coin, your politics in such a way that you step into these various seasons, these various cycles, enjoy what the cycle has to give you, but it's all working toward the ultimate principle of humanity and human dignity. You know what I mean? Those things that you cherish and value. And I think having that principled approach helps you to maintain balance, maintain community, and helps you to like move like white willow, be pliable when the winds of life come up against you, like the current political stuff. It doesn't unmoor you. It helps you to have that grounding so that you can experience all the seasons. And so while I like the attention that we're paying to autumn and rest, I think it has to be predicated by a principled approach to your life, being able to say who I am and this is what I stand for. And in the season of rest, I'm going to rest on who I am and what I stand for, and honor those values.
You know what, Adama, you were reading my mind because this conversation has felt so warm, so close that it would feel strange for us not to end with maybe last comments in the chat about what you want to, a gift you want to offer to others, or a final thought or something. So I want to give a moment for people to in the chat some type of closeout that you would like to share. For example, Adama says, "Thank you. I needed this beautiful gathering with you blessed folks. Is affirming my humanity." So thank you so much, Adama. I'm so glad that you were here. Dana, this filled my cup and I will be reflecting on this today. How can I replenish and give back? Thank you so much, Dana. Rebecca, this has been a wonderful recentering conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, I'm gonna give just a little bit more time before I pass it over to Dana for some vital announcements. I'm gonna share my reflection too. This is a really good way to, like I shared earlier, I look at things as the quarters, and we're not all the way, depending on how you look at it, into autumn. A lot of times I move by the weather instead of when the actual day is on whatever calendar that. So this is really good. This is really ordering my steps for what I need to do and the way I need to look into autumn. And I thank you all for that. Sheila says it gives me more to think about and I haven't thought about before. Thank you. Thank you all. Dana, could you close us out with some BRJA announcements? But thank you all again. I can't say that enough for being here for this very beautiful and vibrant conversation.